Just close your eyes. Know the peace within.
Realization is at the conscious level. Sleep is at the personality level. Realization is beyond space. Sleep is within space. Realization is beyond object. Sleep is due to identifications at the object level. Realization is beyond form. Sleep is due to identifications at the form level. Realization is beyond movement. Sleep is due to identifications at the movement level in space. Realization is beyond time. Sleep is with respect to time, which begins and ends, which appears and disappears. Realization is beyond duality. Sleep is due to identifications at the duality level. Realization is beyond birth and death. Sleep is due to identification with respect to the form as birth and death, as the appearance of the form and the disappearance of the form. Realization is beyond words. Sleep is due to identification with the words. Your consciousness realizes its ultimate state only when it is conscious of itself inwardly. By not being conscious of itself inwardly, your consciousness is constantly identifying itself to be the form and sleeps at the form level identities. Your consciousness is conscious of itself inwardly. By accepting itself to be born, it sleeps at the duality level. Your consciousness never dies. Your consciousness sleeps by accepting the disappearance of the form to be real in space. Your consciousness is yet to realize its eternal state. By not realizing its unborn state, it is constantly accepting itself to be the form, to be born, to be disappearing at the form level. And also it accepts every happening to be real, every movement to be real at the duality level. Your consciousness does not know that it needs to wake up consciously to know its unending richness. Your consciousness sleeps endlessly by identifying itself to be the form, to be born, to be suffering, also to be disappearing at the form level. Here, sleep means your consciousness not knowing its conscious state and accepting the form to be itself. Once your consciousness knows its conscious state, it knows that the form just happens, just appears and disappears out of consciousness. Your consciousness, by not knowing that only out of itself every form is happening just now, every object is happening just now, every movement is happening just now, the entire manifested duality is happening just now. Your consciousness sleeps. Why? Because it does not know that whatever appears, moves and disappears are not real. Like how you perceive a dream inside your sleep and you accept the perceived dream to be real at the time of perception. Why you accept the dream to be real in deep sleep? Because you do not know that you are sleeping. You are accepting the dream to be real. Had your consciousness woken up, it cannot sleep anymore and it knows that the dream is perceived only in the sleep state. Exactly here, your consciousness is accepting the entire appearances, movements and disappearances of the duality state to be real, because it is yet to know that still it is sleeping at the identification level and it is yet to wake up to know that whatever that is happening, appearing and disappearing are not real but exclusively an unreal dream. Here sleep means your consciousness not being conscious of itself. I am not talking about the sleep, the physical sleep with eyes closed. Consciously you sleep by accepting the duality to be real. Only when your consciousness is conscious of itself, it remains wakeful. By not remaining conscious of itself, it remains asleep. So why your consciousness needs to wake up? Because your consciousness is already in the non-dual state, just now and always, but it does not know that it is already in the non-dual state. By not knowing its unmoving non-dual state, your consciousness accepts the duality show perceived to be real, and all objects appearing within duality show to be real, and every movement within duality show to be real. Why? Because your consciousness is still sleeping. Once your consciousness wakes up, it knows its original state, and it comes to know that it is already in the non-dual state, and it comes to know that it is already prior to dream, and it comes to know that it is already prior to the duality state, and it comes to know that it is already prior to the form. Till your consciousness wakes up, it accepts the dream to be real. Once your consciousness is conscious of itself, it remains wakeful, and by being conscious of itself constantly inwardly, it wakes up totally. My whole teaching is only to make your consciousness more wakeful inwardly. That's why here you are closing your eyes and knowing the stillness within. This stillness is unmoving, unchanging, and your consciousness is unmoving, unchanging, and the reality is unmoving and unchanging. Only in stillness your consciousness is conscious of itself. Only in stillness your consciousness remains wakeful, and only in stillness your consciousness wakes up totally. To realize that it is already in the non-dual state, non-dual source, and whatever that spontaneously appear, move and disappear is an exclusive dream by the spontaneous movement of the elements. Knowing the unmoving conscious state is mandatory to remain wakeful as well as to realize what you are and where you are. That's why here you are closing your eyes and start knowing the unmoving state within. Just now you know the stillness within, which is unmoving. Never underestimate this stillness, because it contains the whole truth within. Only in this unmoving state your consciousness wakes up. How your consciousness sleeps? Through constant identifications, through constant movements, through constant usage of words. Your consciousness sleeps. Unknowingly. Your consciousness is already in the non-dual state, already in the unborn state, already in the deathless state, already in the supreme state. Yet it does not know its supreme state, it does not know its unborn state, and it is accepting itself to be born at the form level, at the duality level, and it accepts every happening within duality to be real. Why? Because your consciousness does not know that the entire duality is happening exclusively by the spontaneous movement of the elements at an unexplainable speed just now. Only out of your consciousness the duality show is going on by the elements. Elements constantly appear, move and disappear at an unexplainable speed. But your consciousness is unmoving, unchanging and ever present. Elements appear and disappear, your consciousness neither appears and nor disappears. Only when your consciousness starts knowing its unmoving state, the unchanging state, the stillness within, it remains wakeful from the ever-changing, ever-moving, appearances and disappearances of the perceived dreamy duality show. It is your consciousness realizing upon total wakefulness that it is never born. Only at the conscious level, your consciousness wakes up. At the personality level, at the duality level, at the identification level, your consciousness sleeps. Through sleep, your consciousness does not know its ultimate richness, that it is already the eternal, and that it is the absolute, that it is the wholeness. Your consciousness is yet to know that it is sleeping once the duality appears, that it is sleeping by the perceived happening of the duality show, till it comes across a realized. Only a realized tells your consciousness that you are already that you are always that. And to know your ultimate richness beyond duality, you need to settle inwardly in your original state. That's why you are not making any effort. Effort means just a movement. Here, by closing eyes, no movement is required. You are already in your original state. Just because eyes are open, you start identifying with the perceived objects, not knowing that they happen only out of your consciousness just now. You accept as if every object is already here and every form is already here. It is not so. Just now, out of the light of your consciousness, due to the elemental interactions at an unexplainable speed which happens spontaneously, entire objects are appearing in space just now. All forms are appearing in space just now. The whole manifestation is happening in space just now. Once your consciousness knows that only out of itself the dream is happening, only out of itself the duality is happening, only out of itself entire reflected show is going on, your consciousness remains unbothered about the duality show. Because it knows that everything is happening only out of itself. By not knowing that everything is happening out of itself, it is accepting itself to be different, and it accepts as if everything is real. By accepting everything to be real, it remains tense, depressed, and frustrated. Till your consciousness knows its conscious state, it remains depressed. Once your consciousness knows its original state through constant wakefulness, it remains peaceful, joyful, and utterly relaxed, because upon waking up totally, your consciousness realizes its unending richness, that it is already that, unmoving richness, that it is already that, the ever-present richness, that it is already that. The total realization is possible only when your conscious is conscious of itself. And the dream happens only when your conscious is not conscious of itself. Why? Because your consciousness is sleeping by accepting itself to be a person, and your consciousness remains wakeful by accepting itself to be conscious. Now you know the difference. When your conscious is accepting itself to be a person, it is sleeping, because it is accepting that which is not itself to be itself, because it does not know that it is consciousness. Like how you do not know that you are in deep sleep, here your consciousness does not know that it is consciousness, so it is sleeping. The moment your conscious is conscious of itself, it remains wakeful. At least now know that your consciousness is sleeping by not being conscious of itself. At least now know that you need to wake up from the sleepy, dreamy duality show, for which you need to remain wakeful, for which you need to be conscious of yourself inwardly. Only then wakefulness is possible. And this wakefulness is total once your conscious is conscious of itself inwardly, constantly, consistently. Because you are right now in your original destination. Only thing is, you are not conscious of your presence. You always identify the object. I help you to remain wakeful inwardly and to be conscious of yourself inwardly. Listen to my teaching sincerely. It helps you to settle inwardly, and it helps you to wake up from the sleepy, dreamy duality, and it helps you to remain wakeful constantly, consistently, inwardly, to wake up totally, to realize that you are the ultimate, supreme, unborn reality, and nothing never happens to you. And you only observe, 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 and whatever observed are not real but an exclusive, unreal dream by the play of the elements. Settle inwardly and wake up totally to realize your indescribable, unending richness, that you are that you are always that you are already that. Enough of sleeping at the personality level. Wake up consciously, inwardly, to realize your supreme wholeness beyond duality.